Cooperative, but independent, balanced, transparent, and sincere.
I hold no grudges. I hold no ill feelings. I congratulate Senator Vicente Tito Soto III on his election as Senate President.
There you have it. Vicente Tito Soto has returned as Senate President after Senator Chis Escudero was ousted in a sudden coup and right during the first minute of today's session, too.
The leadership shakeup is coming just 6 weeks after the 20th Congress began. And with this major development, other leadership roles in the Senate were also reversed. Mobile journalist Marimon Reyes has tonight's big story.
Just 6 weeks into the 20th Congress, and already the Senate has had its first major shakeup.
Mr. President, I would like to move to declare the position of the Senate President as vacant, Mr. President.
Senator Mig Zubiri, a former Senate President, announced this right within the first minute of the session, with Senate President Chis Escudero still up there on the rostrum. As with every other motion, Escudero had to act on it.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Chair will suspend session.
Senate President pro tempore Jinggoy Estrada took over after the 1-minute suspension. Nobody objected to Zubiri's motion, so Escudero stepped down forthwith. Zubiri then proceeded to nominate Senator Tito Soto to once again take the helm of the upper chamber.
As Senate President, he always led with fairness and transparency. With Senator Soto as Senate President, the Senate is in good hands.
Senator Loren Legarda immediately seconded. Soto then walked up the rostrum and took his oath with some family members behind him. The oath was in fact administered by outgoing SP Escudero.
I, Vicente C. Soto III,
Having been elected to the position of Senate President,
having been elected to the position of Senate President,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will well and faithfully discharge,
that I will well and faithfully discharge,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
the duties of my present position.
the duties of my present position,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations, citizen.
Thank you, sir.
With a new Senate President also comes other leadership changes. Senator Ping Lacson was elected Senate President pro tempore, replacing Senator Jinggoy Estrada, while Zubiri replaced Senator Joel Villanueva as Majority Leader. In an ambush interview before the vote, Soto confirmed 15 senators supported his return to the top job. This is a stunning reversal. Recall that in July, when Soto challenged Escudero for the Senate presidency, only 5 voted for him. That means 10 lawmakers flipped. Given this second chance, Soto promised an independent Senate.
This Senate will remain cooperative, but independent, balanced, transparent, and sincere.
When asked about the specific reason why Escudero was ousted, most senators were diplomatic or tight-lipped. But SP Soto consistently talked of corruption in his speech.
Our people are enraged of corruption. Corruption that is now seen, heard, and felt by the Filipinos more than ever. The failed flood control projects that's supposed to protect the lives, livelihood, and properties of our countrymen, the dilapidated classrooms for our students, and the lack of quality farm-to-market roads to aid our farmers, all are engulfed in corruption, hindering the progress of the nation as a whole.
For his part, Escudero clarified he holds no grudges.
I serve at the pleasure, Mr. President, of the majority, and understand and respect the decision of the majority of my colleagues. I hold no grudges. I hold no ill feelings. I congratulate Senator Vicente Tito Soto III on his election as Senate President.
With this shakeup, the other former members of the minority bloc, Lacson, Zubiri, Ontiveros, Legarda, will now be part of the majority. Mobile journalist Marimon Reyes, we are One News.
As for other changes in the committee chairmanships, Ontiveros told reporters they'll find out more later this week. She says she's happy to be in the majority for once.
Well, I can only speak for myself. Mula naman sa simula ng 20th Congress, bilib ako sa liderato ni Senator Tito Soto. Kaya nga binoto ko siyang minority leader para maging minority leader. And ang ganda ng samahan namin sa minority. And I'm happy na maging bahagi ng isang mas malaking grupo ng mga magkakaibigan. kasamang senador na ganun din naniniwala sa liderato niya. At yung magandang samahan namin ay solid lalo na sa mga issues.
SP Soto and other senators had gone to see Escudero this morning to discuss the leadership change. And in fact, at some point during this morning's Blue Ribbon Committee hearing, Ontiveros had to excuse herself. During the meeting, Soto told Escudero they had the numbers and apparently the latter agreed to a smooth transition. That's why they no longer needed to vote on it during the plenary session. But many members were left in the dark, including SP Pro Tempore Jinggoy Estrada and Senator Amy Marcos, as well as other members of the so-called Duterte bloc.
Kailan nyo lang po nalaman, sir?
Kanina lang.
During the Blue Ribbon meeting, sir?
Yes.
Sir, how kayo na-informed? How were you informed?
Well, I talked to SP Cheese, what's happening, because I read in social media may mga rebutan nga mangyayari sa Senate. So, I was surprised.
Sir,
But it happens. Wala tayong magagawa. They have the numbers. So, congratulations.
Wala naman kumausap, wala naman nagkumbinse. Parang nalito nga kami ni Nabato, nalito rin kami ni Bongo. Ano ba nangyayari? Pati si Senator Robin, patakbo yata kay SP Cheese. Nagkakalitohan bakit yung Duterte block na out kami?
As for Deputy Majority Leader J.V. Ejercito, he says he was the last of the 15 senators who signed in support of Soto. Recall that just 6 weeks ago, Ejercito voted in favor of Escudero. But Ejercito says the fallout from the corruption scandal has affected the institution already.
I gave him the courtesy and respect. Pinausap ko muna siya talaga na kung sakali I'll be the last to sign kasi kung talagang meron ng majority. I say I was the last. In particular kami ni Senator nag-usap kami kagabi kung anong gagawin namin. Kasi may mga kumausap din naman sa amin na we cannot reveal that. Siguro yung nasobrahan na yung siraan ng both houses no? It has affected the institutions already. Yeah. Ako naman, I think yung mga issues kay Sen Cheese, kay Sen Joel, that's part of the demolition job. But it's already affecting the Senate and we have to save that institution.
For his part, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano confirmed he will now be part of the minority. He also waxed sentimental about the fact it was another Sara who brought down SP Cheese.
So I can claim that nagsimula yung Senate presidency ni Senate President Escudero ng panahon ng isang Sara D or the Vice President Sara Duterte. This morning, we heard another Sara D, Sara Diskaya, and that ended naman his Senate President. So, sarado na po ang term ni Senate President Escudero. Pero, nagbubukas pa lang ang linaw. I would like to manifest that I'll probably remain in the minority.
All right, let's try to get more insights about this from political analyst Cleve Arguelles, who joins us via phone patch this evening. Good evening, Cleve. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Cleve. Sorry we're calling you on such short notice. Medyo daming breaking news today. The first thing I'm sure you've caught up on the news, and the first thing I wanted to ask you about was how the vote came down. So this time around, 15 senators voted for Tito Soto to become Senate President, whereas just 6 weeks ago, he could barely muster the numbers to become SP, right? So a lot of things have changed in those 6 weeks. What does this tell you?
Right. Well, I think for the longest time since, not for the longest time, but since the 2025 midterms, we've always considered now Senate President Tito Soto a sort of like a Senate President in waiting, right? Given his seniority and reputation among his colleagues. So this is not a really surprising development that he was able to muster the support of his colleagues. I think it was easy for many of his colleagues to switch their support, especially those who have less partisan interests or in some of the clearly divisive issues in the Senate, like for example the previous impeachment trial of the vice president. So definitely the decisive factor was the the flood corruption scandal, and how investigative reports and the hearings in the House has been the former Senate President Chis Escudero has been linked to a donor to the controversy, and I think that his colleagues in the Senate could just they could no longer afford to just really shield him, and they risk themselves losing their credibility and the credibility of the Senate as an institution.
Okay, let's talk about public perception. Do you think these controversies surrounding SP Chis, even Senator Joel Villanueva, were they already affecting the Senate as an institution, as what Senator J.V. Ejercito said?
I think so, and among all of our legislators, even more than the members of the House, the senators are traditionally more sensitive to national public opinion, to what people on the ground are feeling. So I think that they sense that this may break people's trust with the Senate and may affect all of their careers. So they also have political interest to consider here, right? And just drawing if this issue of the flood control corruption scandal, this is it dominates national attention, and every day that goes by that this is linked to the leadership of the Senate, Chis Escudero and Joel Villanueva, for example, then I just don't think that they can afford it, and it's very clear to them that that they have become a liability to the Senate, right? And the chamber just acted swiftly to cut its losses in terms of public reputation, public support.
But at the same time, Cleve, there is that common phrase that nothing passes without Malacanang's approval. Do you think Malacanang had any influence in this leadership change?
If anything, I think my reading of what the president was saying and was doing now is that he physically left the country at the time that this was about to happen. So I think we must make a distinction between, yes, I think the president was probably informed because that's the tradition in our politics, and he may have been given the signal of who will attempt to replace the Senate President Chis Escudero. But I think I don't sense that there was an explicit endorsement of who should replace. I think that the position of the president here is that there should be an investigation, that even the political players, whether he's allies or not, it's a free for all kind of like royal rumble in the boxing ring, and it's up to them, whose heads will roll, and who gets to burn and who gets to get out of the hot water. So that's my reading here. That he just probably left it to the political players in the Senate to decide on their own how they want to constitute themselves in a different way.
Cleve, it's also interesting that according to Senator Amy Marcos, the so-called Duterte bloc was locked out of the discussions, right? From what we're hearing from sources, talks began maybe about a week ago, but it all started only coming together maybe overnight. And SP Soto only got the numbers this morning. Actually, he only locked in the numbers this morning. Throughout all of that, Senator Amy Marcos makes it sound like she was unaware, she was locked out. And then former SP pro tempore Jinggoy Estrada also said, kanina lang yan nalaman. Again, what does this tell you, and how do you see now the dynamic in the upper chamber?
Right. I think by tradition, this is how they do a coup in terms of the Senate presidency in the Senate, right? That the practice is that those they think that are very close and kind of like the defining block for the incumbent Senate president are invited last, are given the last word, given the last win, right, to shift their support to the incoming Senate president. So they experience it this time around, the Duterte bloc, and I think it's been a while since they've been in the
minority.
I think this is yes. So it's been several years, and so this will be the first time that the Duterte bloc will be in the minority. And this is an interesting development, because that means that if you just look at who's in the majority and the minority, that you can say that they're less influential now in the Senate. And it's only been months before they successfully deferred, delayed, archived the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. So, and I think that it also makes it clear that to begin with, those who are kind of like solid and whose support was definitive for the Escudero presidency, because this was also an open question when the Senate convened, right? That it turned out to be, the rumors are true, that he depended a lot on the support of the Duterte bloc, and now he's with them in the minority.
Let me take a step back. Let's zoom out a little bit. What is your assessment of how the Senate has been handling the flood control scandal, specifically how the Blue Ribbon has been conducting its hearings? Over at the lower house, for instance, there are grumblings that they are closing ranks. They're protecting their own members by not summoning, for instance, Congressman Zaldi Co, who was appropriations chair at the last Congress. What about for the Senate? What is your assessment of how they've handled it?
I think it's par for the course that both chambers will try to protect their own and would really try as much as possible to save each other, as to the extent that it's possible. But I think what's quite apparent in how the Senate has been doing its investigations, that it appears that, for example, for me as an observer, that there's an attempt to cover up some lines of inquiries, especially if it includes, for example, potential links to the previous administration, the Duterte administration. I think there were mga viral moments of some of the Duterte bloc senators, right, like asking questions and being surprised that it will come back to them like a boomerang. Na okay.
You're talking about
Duterte,
Senator Bato de la Rosa.
Senator Bato, right? So, and I think that's the problem that the new leadership of the Senate is inheriting now. So they have to make sure, and part of his first task is to signal that the chamber will no longer kind of like entertain that kind of medyo partial and really medyo hindi credible na investigation, that it will not shield the allies of whether the administration or the previous one, but really function as a credible fiscalizer. So that's the expectation, and I think that's really also part of the reason why the Duterte bloc ended up with a minority, because it was clear in the previous leadership that they have an upper hand in terms of how to run the investigation, as Senator Marcoleta is head of the Blue Ribbon Committee. So we expect a change in the leadership in the Blue Ribbon Committee, given the shakeup, right? So I think it really shows that this new set of the new set of Senate leadership and those who allied with them now in the majority wants a different direction into how the investigations into in the corruption scandal is how they're handling it.
You sound like you want to see a change in leadership for the Blue Ribbon Committee. Who do you think it should be chaired by?
Someone like Senator Risa Ontiveros would be a good idea. I think she has shown clearly to the public his ability to be able to investigate fully and credibly. She's not part of the Marcos administration, also not part of the Duterte administration. Those are the two most recent administrations, and they are, I think there are questions about how they've been involved in the flood control scandal, right? So I think it will be a good start to have someone as credible as Senator Risa Ontiveros. But there are also other good figures, those who came from the minority to join the majority. You have veteran senators like Senator Loren Legarda, for example. But it would be harder, I think, because they now occupy leadership positions rin. So, halimbawa, even the majority floor and the pro tempore, Senator Ping Lacson, for example, would be a good candidate for someone to lead the Blue Ribbon Committee.
But Lee, let's go back to the lower house. There are whispers that there's possibly a leadership change as well at the House of Representatives for the speakership. How likely do you think that will happen?
Yeah, I've heard of that, and I think there is definitely we are seeing the smoke.
And where there's smoke, there's fire, ba?
Yes, but interestingly, we can't see the fire yet. No, sabi. We among observers, we know that this is going to be a really big Monday, with potential changes in both changes in the leadership of both chambers. But it didn't happen in the House, no. So, baka House Speaker Martin Romualdez was able to defend his position, but clearly you can see that there's also a target in his back, given, for example, the allegations that was made by Representative Toby Chanco, diba, that implicating the House leadership, no, starting with Congressman Saldico, and by extension also the House Speaker, no. So, but it looks like he has a firmer control in his colleagues, and he's still appreciated by his colleagues in the House. Or it might be a question of time, right? It might be that it's going to happen sooner than later. But I think that it will definitely, how they handle this scandal will definitely affect whether there will be a change in the House leadership. And the last thing, I think it's very important that despite the statements made by the Executive Secretary, Bersamin, no, hinabol ng presidente, di ba? Right before he left, he made a statement na okay, kalma lang tayo. So maybe that's a pahabol statement that teka lang, I might not really be endorsing a change in the House leadership after all. So could be.
And Cleva, with Senator Tito Sotto now Senate President, do you think impeachment talks will be revived? It would be pulled out from the archives because Senator Tito Sotto was the face. He was pushing for that impeachment just a month ago.
Yes, and I think we've seen a different Tito Sotto during that time, and I think I appreciated him as a minority leader. Sometimes you really shine when you're in the minority, and that's what happened. So I think the dynamics definitely will shift from here on. So I'm not sure if the Senate can really just revive the impeachment, take it from the archive. But I think there would be more chances if the House will just transmit a new set of articles of impeachment. But that also relates to whether Speaker Martin, for example, will be able to keep his position. If he still enjoys the leadership of the House, then I think there's a clearer path for an impeachment trial that was previously blocked by the Escuderos, by Escudero and his allies, right? So definitely there's still a lot of moving parts that we need to consider. But just looking at this leadership shakeup, I think we can confidently say that if it comes back as an agenda of the Senate, then there's a more favorable environment for such impeachment process to advance.
Oh, that was an interesting statement over the weekend from E.S. Bersamin, no, telling the House that clean your house first, clean your ranks first, which I've never encountered in all these years of reporting. But also today, something unprecedented, I thought, after SP Cheese stepped down and he was giving his speech, he was naming his achievements, right? Saying that, the Blue Ribbon Committee was able to conduct hearing on the anomalies in flood control projects. Na-mentioned then previously someone who was not named, which is Martin Romualdez and also Zaldico, Congressman Zaldico. What did you make of that? That's a bit unusual, isn't it? Parang nawala ni interparliamentary courtesy here.
Right, no, but I think that I think I look at it in the way na I think what these different players are trying to do, in including both houses of Congress, is that someone has to convince the nation that, okay, this specific set of people or this specific set of institutions are to blame and should be made responsible for this corruption scandal. No, so parang who will reap the benefits, no, from all of these allegations and from all of these recent revelations, right? So and so you can read it in a way that that's the first move, right? That they've been named already, right? And then I guess you will just expect that, I have no doubts that a House hearing will do the same to senators tomorrow or sooner. Maybe baka tama na kasi naus na siya SP Cheese, no? But you can just expect that to happen, right? But I think what's also important is that there's no, aside from the naming the contractors that are involved, right? The president is still is not really pushing on a specific direction din. Kaya nga parang what comes out is that it's a free for all kind of like situation na, okay, so who will get the, who will be able to convince the nation that the target should be set in a specific direction. And of course, they're all trying to run towards safety, no? Given that from how and what we know about how corruption works in Philippine politics, no? It's a degree of being implicated rather than, absolutely wala kang kinalaman dyan, no? So, syempre, they have to save their own skin.
In short, shots fired. We will leave that there for now. Thank you so much for your insights tonight. Political analyst Cleve Arguelles. Speaking of the Duterte's, former PCSO chair and police Colonel Roina Garma is testifying against former President Rodrigo Duterte in his crimes against humanity case at the International Criminal Court. That is according to Justice Secretary Boying Remulla. Remulla also said Garma met with ICC representatives in Malaysia, where they also discussed her safety. Garma arrived from California Saturday night. She had been seeking asylum in the United States since November of last year after she revealed in a House Quad Committee hearing the reward system during the Duterte administration's war on drugs. She also confirmed the existence of the Davao Death Squad. However, her asylum application was denied. Garma could be among the witnesses against the former president, who is slated to face the ICC chamber again on September 23 for the confirmation of charges hearing.
Our working relationship with the ICC involves witness protection. And the best way to protect her is actually for the ICC to meet her abroad, because her life can be in danger in our country, let's face it. Uniformed personnel ang kalaban.
Well, actually, I have a bit of breaking news regarding that. Former President Rodrigo Duterte's confirmation of charges hearing has actually been postponed. I said earlier it was going to be on September 23, but we've just gotten word from the ICC that that's been moved. This was following a request from Digong's defense team alleging that Duterte is not fit to stand trial on September 23rd. But the chamber struck down his request for indefinite adjournment. And with this, the ICC pre-trial chamber decided that such outstanding matters need to be addressed first. Then they will set a specific date for the resumption of the hearing. Only Judge Maria del Socorro Flores Liera dissented, saying the request should have been rejected and pre-trial proceedings continued. At the ICC, the confirmation of charges hearing is supposed to determine whether there is sufficient evidence to establish substantial grounds that the person has committed the crimes charged against him.
Well, we're just going to take a quick break, but coming up, the Discayas drop a bombshell at the Blue Ribbon hearing, naming government officials who allegedly received kickbacks for flood control projects. We have the details of that when the big story returns. Stay with us. welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News. Today's Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing on flood control projects saw contractors Sara and Curly Discaya drop a bombshell. In their bid to turn state witness, the couple named several lawmakers and DPWH officials who allegedly demanded kickbacks in exchange for project approvals. Mobile journalist Merimon Reyes has that story.
Contractors Sara and Curly Discaya now want to turn state witness in the ongoing investigation into alleged corruption involving funds for flood control projects. At the Senate Blue Ribbon hearing earlier, the couple named several politicians who they claimed either asked for or received kickbacks from them. Reading from a joint sworn statement, the Discayas claimed they handed money to lawmakers and officials of the Department of Public Works and Highways in exchange for the approval of their projects across the country. First on the Discayas list is Pasig Lone District Congressman Roman Romulo. Romulo is an ally of Pasig City Mayor Vico Soto, who defeated Sara, who herself ran for mayor in the last elections. The Discayas also named Quezon City Representative Arjo Ataide and Marikina Representative Marcy Teodoro, even one undersecretary. Also named were Congressman Nicanor Briones from Aga Party List, Eliandro Jesus Madrona of Romblon, Leo Di Tariela of Occidental Mindoro, and a former lawmaker from San Jose del Monte, Bulacan. The list also included congressmen from Quezon Province, Caloocan, and Quezon City, as well as former congressmen. Officials from the Department of Public Works and Highways were also implicated, including Bulacan District Engineer Henry Alcantara, who has since been sacked for ghost projects in the province. According to Curly Discaya, the lawmakers and officials often mention that at least 25% of the kickbacks go to Ako Bicol Party List Representative Zaldico and House Speaker Martin Romualdez. The Discaya couple also claimed the money was to ensure their companies got the contracts. Payments, they added, were made in cash.
Dapat tanggapin namin ang realidad na dapat kaming magbayad sa mga pambabatas kung gusto po namin magpatuloy na magkaroon ng project sa gobyerno. Kung hindi, binabala nila na matatanggal na sa listahan ang kumpanya namin at hindi na makakakuha ng kahit anong proyekto. Hindi namin ginusto kailanman na mapasama sa ganitong sistema, pero kailangan namin magpatuloy para sa pamilya at mga empleyado namin. Dahil naiipit na ang aming negosyo, lumulubog na kami sa lumalaking utang ng kumpanya at peligro sa buhay ng aming pamilya. Napilitan kaming makisama sa kalakaran kahit labag sa aming kalooban.
Karamihan sa mga kawani ng DPWH na nabanggit sa itaas ay paulit-ulit na binabanggit ang delivery ng pera ay para sa kaisaldi ko na dapat at least 25%. Si Kong Marvin Rillo naman ay ilang beses na binabanggit ang pangalan ni Speaker Martin Romualdez bilang kanyang malapit na kaibigan.
Implicated lawmakers were quick to dispel the Discayas' allegations. In a statement, House Speaker Martin Romualdez denied having received any commission or kickback from the couple. He also vowed to make those who committed abuses or those who use his name answerable, no matter who they are. Romualdez goes on to say, "I have never and I will never accept a bribe from anybody." For her part, former San Jose del Monte Bulacan representative and now Mayor Florida Robes maintained her district has no ghost projects and their structures are world-class. Marikina City Representative Marcy Teodoro calls his inclusion in the list a demolition job.
Noong isang linggo na pinondohan pa, ako nakikita ko.
Quezon City 1st District Representative Arjo Ataide also denied having dealt with the Discayas nor having used his position for personal gain. He is also seeking legal remedies to clear his name. Romblon Representative Eliandro Jesus Madrona also denied the having any project with the Discayas. It was the same denial for Occidental Mindoro Representative Leo Di Tariela. Quezon City 5th District Representative Patrick Michael Vargas is also mulling filing charges against the Discayas, who he said do not even have projects in his district. Quezon City 6th District Representative Maria Victoria Copilar says she may file label cases on the allegation against her.
Ni Anino, ni Sara, o ni Curly Discaya, di ko nakita. I have never spoken to them, nor have I ever authorized or allowed any representative to deal with them.
Pasig City Representative Roman Romulo said he was surprised by the Discayas' accusations.
Hindi rin po totoo yun. Sa totoo po, no, kahit unang-una ko pa lang na nanungkulan bilang mambabatas, hindi po ako nakikialam sa bidding sa aming sa DPWH. Pero again po, no, hindi po totoo ang mga sinabi niya.
Asked whether they have any proof of the payouts, the Discayas also said in today's hearing that they carefully recorded all transactions in vouchers and ledgers showing the amounts, dates, and recipients which they are willing to submit to the Blue Ribbon Committee. The only issue is that they don't have signatures from any of the people they accused.
Wala po resibo. No paper trail po lahat ng transaction. Pero meron po kaming ledger po pala. Ledger. Ledger lang po yan sa office namin. Pero siyempre po, pag pinapirma po namin sila, hindi sila pipirma doon. Records lang po namin.
Mobile journalist Mary Reyes, we are One News.
As we were just saying, Speaker Martin Romualdez and former House Appropriations Chair ACO Bicol Party List Representative Zaldi Co were quick to condemn their mentions at today's Senate hearing. In a statement, Romualdez said it was false, malicious, and nothing more than name-dropping the Discaya couple's claim that his name is being used to ask for commissions in state-funded projects. The Speaker went on, and I quote, "Congress debates and approves the budget. It does not release funds. It does not implement projects. That is the sole duty of the executive and agencies like the DPWH. And I say this with all honesty. I have never and I will never accept a bribe from anybody. Walang sinuman ang kayang manuhol sa akin. Alam yan ng lahat ng House members. I am self-made and I have been blessed with the trust of the Filipino people. I do not need and will never allow myself to be corrupted by money that does not belong to me." For his part, Ko also vehemently denied accusations raised against him at today's Blue Ribbon hearing, calling them unsubstantiated, hearsay, and even politically motivated. Before the upper chamber, Navotas Congressman Toby Tiangco claimed that Ko, as Appropriations Chair last year, inserted 13.8 billion pesos in the 2025 national budget. The insertions were supposedly all linked to flood control projects. But in a statement, Ko said that last year's General Appropriations Act, or GAA, was certified and approved by both houses of Congress. President Marcos, he said, even vetoed some provisions of the GAA and withheld the release of the funds for projects. Ko vowed to comment on questions on the budget when the courts require him to do so, as the 2025 GAA is now the subject of a case before the Ombudsman and the Supreme Court. And following up from that, also the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing today, as we said, Congressman Tiangco tagged Congressman Ko in at least 13.8 billion pesos in insertions, all for flood control projects allegedly made by Ko. Tiangco has long been calling for Ko, the former APRO chair, to answer questions hounding the 2025 budget. Tiangco also said he's spoken to the other congressmen under which the insertions appeared, and they said they didn't ask for the extra funds.
Ako, na yung proponent ng mga dagdag sa distrito na to under BICAM is si Congressman Saldico na 13 billion. Na po yung ilang congressman dyan, sabi na hindi amin yan, hindi namin ni-request yan. So hindi ko na po hindi na ako nagtanong kung parada yan or
sagasa.
Ang sinasabi ko lang po is yan po yung nakita ko. Kasi normally, kung kunyari, yan po yung request ko, dapat ako yung proponent at ako rin po yung congressional district. So pag magkaiba, magtataka kayo bakit eh.
Parking or parada, according to Congressman Tiangco, means the congressman agreed to have the funds parked under his name. Sagasa allegedly means the funds will be allocated to a specific district, whether or not the congressman there likes it. Congressman Alfredo Garbin Jr. is the only one seemingly still in touch with Ko, as they both belong to ACO Bicol Party List. Garbin has said Ko is in the U.S. for medical treatment since July, but that he is willing to answer the allegations.
As I've told earlier, Kong South is still in the United States. I think that was 2 or 3 days ago na nakapag-usap po kami. And lahat naman nun sabi ko na he was there on a medical checkup. As I have said, he has this heart ailment since last year pa to, in November pa. And in fact, as early as July, he was abroad already for this medical consultative, ganun po yung nangyari. He's okay, except that he's waiting for yung mga ng kanya mga doktor. Wala akong masyadong detalye. Kinumusta ko lang po, and that's why I was able to share yung kanyang kalagayan. I think he's updated, and if someone to answer all those, as long as it is a valid allegations, then he will answer.
In a separate interview with our sister program with Ted Filon, DJ Chacha earlier, Baguio City Mayor Benji Magalong lamented Congress's handling of the flood control scandal. Magalong thinks they're protecting each other and agrees with Tiangco that Ko needs to be summoned.
Nakalungkot nga na nagsalita bawat nagsalita si Toby Tiangco, nagsalita rin ho ako, nagsalita rin ho si Executive Secretary Bersamin, no? Pero kita niyo ho kung paano nila pinoprotektahan yung kanilang grupo Old Boys Club diyan sa Kongreso, ano. Pasintabi na lang po na hindi ho ko nila lahat, ano. Marami hong matituno diyan sa Kamara. Alam niyo, nakakalungkot na kapitbahay mo na lang, katulad diyan si Congressman Ridon, di ba? Kapitbahay mo na lang, nagbubulag-bulagan ka pa. Alam mo naman na si Saldi ko diyan ang kwan diyan, pasimuno diyan . Siguro tingnan natin, sino ba? Kagalaw na lang ba si Saldico na walang pahintulot yung mga boss niya? Ako, nakakalungkot isipin. Ano? Nagbubulag-bulagan kasi sila . Kaya doon ho dapat umpisano kay Saldico. Ito nga, humarap dapat siya sa Kongreso at humarap din siya sa Senado para malaman talaga natin ano ba yung tinatago nila. Kung naman yung common knowledge sa kanila yun, public knowledge sa kanila yun. Nagbubulag-bulagan lang sila, nagmamaang-maangan lang sila, nagkukunwa-kunwarihan lang sila. Diyos ko, buksan niyo yung mata niyo dyan sa Kongreso, lalo-lalo na kayo dyan na nagkakandak po ng hearing. Mahiya na po tayo sa taong bayan.
Meantime, President Bongbong Marcos said he felt deeply upset seeing Filipinos go through hardships. This as he vowed to pursue a thorough investigation into alleged anomalies in infrastructure projects. In his latest podcast, Marcos condemned officials who enriched themselves at the expense of ordinary workers. He said an independent commission will have full authority to investigate anyone involved and that there will be no sacred cows, stressing that not even friends nor allies will be spared. Marcos also revealed that his office has received over 12,000 reports of questionable projects through the Sumbong sa Pangulo website.
How can you do this to people that have worked every day of their lives? Walang ginawa ito kundi magtrabaho. Nagsakripisyo ng mahirap for very little. Kukunin nyo pa sa kanila yon para bumili ng Rolls Royce. Nobody is more important than Filipinos. Nobody, not one person is more important. Not me, not anybody is more important.
We're pausing for another breather, but when we return, the Public Works Department and Commission on Audit recommend charges against several contractors that
More about this massive corruption issue, we have with us tonight Attorney Gwen De Vera from the UP College of Law, also a member of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines. Good evening, Attorney. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you. Good evening.
Attorney, let's take off from pretty much the whole show. We've been talking about the flood control scandal, the Senate investigation on it, the House hearings on it, but also the reason we invited you on the show was to talk more about the IBP stand, because 2 days ago the Integrated Bar of the Philippines issued a statement calling for a nationwide fight against corruption. And you also recommended a number of steps that you'd like to see in order to clean up this mess. Talk us through that.
All right, so the statement that was released by the Integrated Bar of the Philippines calls for, as you mentioned, a concerted effort to fight corruption. It includes, of course, promoting knowledge regarding corrupt activities, promoting vigilance among our people. And to support that, the IBP has proposed 2 steps. One is creating a committee, anti-corruption committee, that will offer supervision, and also creating help desks through its regional offices in order to assist those who may wish to file complaints against erring officials and also those who connive with them from the private sector.
Attorney, who should lead this anti-corruption committee?
Well, in the Integrated Part of the Philippines, the IBP will then select from among its members and its leadership in terms of who will be leading this particular committee. So we should await the declaration from the Integrated Bar of the Philippines with respect to the membership of this committee. But of course, we know that the Integrated Bar of the Philippines is an association of lawyers. And I've seen some comments already expressing concern that because, of course, as lawyers, we may find ourselves in different sides of this particular issue. So one, I would say that members of this committee should have a background in terms of enforcement against graft and corrupt activities. Number 2, familiarity with the legal framework. So we have a number of laws that should help us not only prosecute, but actually avoid or prevent public officials and the private sector in engaging in graft and corrupt practices. So someone who is versed in the legal framework, from administrative penalties on public officials to criminal enforcement against both public officials and employees and members of the private sector engaging in graft and corrupt practices. Number 3, also familiar with the process that may be involved in cases. Because in a number of these, we've seen, for example, in the 2009, 2010, up to 2014, the prosecution of Janet Lim Napoles, and we only saw the conviction in 2023. So someone who's familiar, so that there can be effective enforcement and prosecution, as well as conviction in criminal offenses.
As you monitor the hearings, both at the Senate and the lower house, Attorney, whether, and you can answer whether on your own capacity or on behalf of the IBP, what are the loopholes that you're seeing? I'll give you one example. For instance, because of all of this exposés, we're finding out that there is no law or rule that prohibits PCAB officers, whether executive directors or board members, from divesting in their own construction companies before they take position. And that's a pretty, these positions are pretty influential because they're the ones that accredit the contractors, right? But that's just from my perspective. What are you guys seeing? Where are the gaps?
Okay, if we are looking at, so I'm speaking in my capacity as someone who has worked in the area specifically of government procurement. So I have assisted both on the government side and I've also assisted on the bidder side when it comes to our procurement in government. So even before we get to the point of licensing of the contractors, there are several areas that we should look at within the procurement process. So number one, in relation to pork barrel, which is what we are seeing today, as you know, our Supreme Court has already declared as unconstitutional insertion of pork barrel in our general appropriations law. However, as some of our experts have pointed out, there's a gap there that has been exploited. So instead of looking at post GAA approval, insertions are now being made into the budget of the agencies rather than the budget of the legislators. So that's a gap that has to be plugged. When it comes to our procurement procedure, there has been an effort very recently to, one, promote transparency, and number two, also increase monitoring of procurement procedures or bidding. This is through the passage of what we now have or call the new Government Procurement Act. So we actually have a new procurement law, and there are two, I would say, two mechanisms there to enhance transparency and monitoring that, again, a number of our experts are saying we should mobilize. One is filming the bidding for a certain amount of contract. So there has to be a video recording of the procedure itself. And number two, it also encourages, it was in our old law, but now it places emphasis on making sure that there are observers that are invited to these biddings, including from non-government organizations. So in order to observe and monitor the conduct of bidding. But what is also interesting is that we need to see some coordination in our government agencies that are tasked with making sure that these anomalies are avoided. So I'm very happy to hear the report that the Commission on Audit has provided, the report that will now be the basis for the Office of the Ombudsman to undertake its investigation and possibly file a complaint. So that's an example of a coordination that we should see between the Commission on Audit and the Office of the Ombudsman, because our Commission on Audit, while it is it's an independent constitutional commission, it's a very important part of the framework for accountability under the Constitution. It doesn't have prosecutorial powers. It may only approve or disallow contracts and expenses or expenditures by government. But really looking into investigating, filing the complaint and prosecuting would fall within the jurisdiction of the Office of the Ombudsman.
Yeah, absolutely right. The prosecutorial powers are going to be key here, because if no one answers for all of this, then where does that leave us, right? But we'll leave the conversation there for now. We'll have you back another time. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Attorney Gwen De Vera of IBP.
Pleasure to be on the show. Thank you.
And the Dean of the UP College of Law. Congratulations, by the way, on the new post. Okay, and that's the big story this very big, eventful Monday. Thanks for watching.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
And we're back tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. So stay with us.
Such an eventful Monday. It's only Monday.
You're welcome back, pal. I mean,
what a way to welcome
what
us
a
back.
way to welcome you back. I think the Senate and the Senate did exactly. They were waiting for you to come back to announce that big leadership change.
All right, well, coming up next is Play-by-Play with Andre Felix and Cheska Liton-Calao.
Welcome
Wow.
back, Pawi. Ang daming pasabog.
I know, right?
Nakakainis nga. Sabi ko, Reg, congratulate mo naman ako. Dala-dala ko medal
I was gonna say, you were wearing something different today.
Siyempre, pinaghirapan ko to 5 hours, 30 minutes. Sydney Marathon. Sabi ko, gusto ko sana sabihin, yun yung topic. Pero dahil sa Senate leadership,
There are so many things happening today.
That's still a win. That's still a big, that's a big news still.
5 hours, 30 minutes. Alam nyo, si Pawi din, malaking bagay kasi she was handing me water sa mga points. Nag-e-bike siya, nagte-train siya, power bank. Kasi imagine 5 hours, 30 minutes.
Yeah, marathon. I was saying to Pao, that's a big achievement at our age, ah.
Grabe naman, no? Pero totoo.
Diba?
42 and 42.
Ano ka? That's a massive achievement.
Ganito, si Cheska, pati Reg, sama kayo sa akin sa next.
Okay, let's end the show na. End the show. Tapusin na natin.
Kayang-kaya ni Cheska yan.
You're talking nonsense na.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Reg, and thank you, Pauline. Great show as always. As I said, daming pasabog.
Whoa.
Change in leadership
Oh my gosh.
in the Senate. It's already 8:30.